Hello and welcome back to another episode of a Cozy Christmas podcast. I'm your host, Art, and we have made it to Christmas in July. In today's episode, I have a special guest back with us, Rachel McMillan, and she is the author of many wonderful books, including the Very Merry Holiday Movie Guide. When she was on the podcast last, we talked a bit about her book and Christmas movies in general. And so I invited her back on to talk about Hallmark's upcoming Christmas in July movies and other made-for-TV Christmas movies that we might be able to see in the month of July. And then in just a couple of weeks, I have my 1-year anniversary episode. I can't believe it's already been a year and about to start my second year of doing this podcast. And I just want to take a moment even now to say thank you to all of you who listen, who have shared the podcast on your social medias, that have responded and emailed, even sent gifts and helped support the show financially. There's just a long list of people to thank. And you all know who you are. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast family. Do you like Hallmark Christmas movies? I have not seen a lot of them, so I'm still kind of a newbie. But last night I watched Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe. I got this movie recommended out of Rachel's book, and it's supposed to be a twist on the Pride and Prejudice story by Jane Austen. I don't know exactly if I would call it a adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, because short of just using some names and very, very few plot points, if at all, it could be argued, there's not much there that resembles the Pride and Prejudice story. That being said, the actress, the main character of the movie, is played by Lacey Chabert, and if you love Hallmark movies, you know her quite well. This was my first movie with her in it, and I gotta say, she was definitely the bright spot of this movie. It's not gonna win any Oscars, but I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It hit me in the feels. I felt Christmassy, and maybe it was just yesterday, the heat that we've had broke. It was only a high of 70 degrees, so we had our windows open. Cool air was blowing into the house, and then the visual treat of a Hallmark Christmas movie is astounding. It looked beautiful. The colors, the decorations, the music, the clothes, everything just screamed Christmas. It is what I needed to watch yesterday, and it was just wonderful. So I'm excited about watching some more here in July and capturing those Christmas feels in what will likely be the hottest month here in Iowa. Our guest today is no stranger to the world of Christmas movies. She's the author of A Very Merry Holiday Movie Guide and several wonderful mysteries and fiction series that will occasionally have Christmas in it as well.
Yeah.
So it's our good friend, Rachel McMillan, back on the Cozy Christmas podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking Christmas.
Oh, me too, which is, that's why I have the podcast. So, all right. So how are things been since you've been on last?
Good. I'm trying to think. It was December when we were on last. Yeah, it's been good. Been writing a lot. And I don't know about you, but I have found the first half of this year to have just flown. I mean,
yeah.
Blink and you'll miss it, and suddenly it's almost the middle of summer. So it's gone by quickly, but yeah. And Christmas was a little bit different this past year, but still my favorite season. I mean, it's hard to, I think because so much about Christmas is so portable, the things that we love about it are so home-centric often. So even though it looked a bit different, people could still enjoy the movies and have their favorite recipes and keep things close to home more than usual, but still be able to make it very meaningful. So
yeah, we had to Zoom with some family while we opened presents, but I was just grateful we had the technology to do that. So
yes.
I can remember back when I was a kid, my dad would sometimes put up a video camera and just record us all opening presents. And I have no idea if those actually made it into the mail to, grandma and grandpa or anything.
Like he was on top of things. That was early Zoom, eh?
Yeah, yeah. Knowing my dad, it's probably still in the box somewhere. But
I love that.
yeah. Well, before we get talking about all the Christmassy goodness, as I mentioned, you're an author, and I just read The Bachelor Girl's Guide to Murder. See, I even have the book
there
here,
it is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was my first ever published book.
I was looking around to see what to read, and sometimes I just like to start at the beginning. So I saw that was the first one, but this is more just, I had a question. Was there like a short story or something that went before that?
So here's the funny thing. They're kind of inspired by my love for Sherlock Holmes, and the Sherlock Holmes adventures were never told chronologically. Like Doyle would publish Hound of Baskervilles, and then he'd publish something else that was in a different chronology. So there are actually 3 short stories and 3 longer novel-length books in that series, but they can be read out of order. However, the Christmas-themed book in that series is called A Singular and Whimsical Problem. And it's really cheap on Amazon. Actually, I think my publisher has a sale on it right now. And it is set in Toronto in the Edwardian period during Christmas time. So
yeah. I just bought that one because I looked and saw, that's a Christmas one and it's in the series. Yeah. I'll get it. So and I think it was $1.99 or something like that.
Cheap. So, and the Conan Doyle story, the Sherlock Holmes story that's set at Christmas time is The Blue Carbuncle. So it's kind of got that little flavor to it. But yes, that was a very fun series to write and set in my town of Toronto and during the Edwardian period, which a lot of our Christmas, some great Christmas moments and vintage postcards and such came out of that era. So there was that society for that in your book. I can't remember the name now. The society that was keeping the women. Yeah. So
morality. Is that a real thing?
I made up the term, but it's actually based on real societies that had the jurisdiction to arrest women if they thought they were being vagrant. And that included loitering by a streetcar, but most often if a jilted lover or a husband or a brother was upset with their wife or girlfriend or relative at the moment, they could go and report these women for nothing. Cool. And these women often ended up in these reformatories. And it's actually a dark part of Toronto's history. So, of course, my female detectives on their cases dress as men to try and avert this. But it really was. Toronto has a history of wanting to be known as Toronto the Good. And so they cleaned up the streets. And one of the first things they did was make sure that if women were seen as being just a little too forward, and I'm not even talking about just women out alone could be seen as a threat to this. So it's a pretty interesting part of our past.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering because, sometimes when you write historical fiction, you play fast and loose with the history just to fit the story. But there was something about that I'm like, I bet that really happened. Yeah,
I do try. I mean, you have historical liberties and I've got poetic license, but I do try to make sure that everything comes from a kernel of something that actually happened. And that's one of those things.
Yeah. Well, it's a good story. And I love how your characters try to subvert that and express their independence as they should. So it was a really good story. So I will like to recommend different books and things. So I was really excited to see all the Christmas in some of your writings. So we'll be talking more about your books in upcoming shows, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this episode will drop in July. And as everyone knows the term Christmas in July. And for some people, that's a sign of it's time for a headache. But for us Christmas fans, we get excited because there's usually movies, there's maybe decorations up at stores and commercials and all that. So I want to go ahead and tap into your expertise here and talk about what's going to be new and upcoming here in Christmas in July for the world of Christmas TV movies.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. And like you, I grew up in I live in Toronto now, which has like 3 million people, so not so small, but I grew up in a small town that has some Hallmark Christmas movie type qualities to it. It's right on the lake, and we always had a Christmas in July festival down at the harbor, and people would decorate their boats with strings of Christmas lights and trees and such. So I have always thought it's such a wonderful tradition to not have to wait until December to bring out these amazing movies and celebrate Christmas in whatever way you can. In Very Merry Holiday Movie Guide, I even added a chapter about Christmas in July and how to make your world festive, even if it's 100 degrees outside. But one thing that Hallmark is doing is, I think it's next week even, they show, now usually they show, I follow them on Facebook. So if you ever want to know what's going on the Hallmark channel, their Facebook page is wonderful. And it looks like every Thursday night they have been showing Christmas movies for a block of time. But starting next week, their Christmas programming comes back for the entire month. And if you live in Canada like me, the W Network is going to be showing a ton of Hallmark Christmas movies during July. But as we talked about last time, if you don't have these channels, you can subscribe to Hallmark streaming and pay. You could even just decide for a month, just like pay $6.99, get Hallmark Now, just watch a ton of Christmas movies, or use Amazon Prime, Netflix. There's a way to curate your own Christmas programming. But one of the things that they're doing this year is releasing a new movie called Crashing Through the Snow. So they usually have one new debut. And I'm just going through my notes here. What they're doing is a lot of themes that allow them to show their Christmas movies through what's happening in the world right now. So they're going to have on the 4th of July, obviously for my American friends like you, that's a huge day. So their family on the 4th is going to be a lot of family-friendly films that focus on family, because people are going to be having barbecues. They also have, a Salute to Christmas, which is going to be a lot about, there's usually some military-themed Christmas movies that Hallmark releases every year. So July the 3rd, you're going to get USS Christmas, Deliver by Christmas. These are all Christmas films that feature service workers. They've got a day that's all about Christmas music movies like Christmas in Nashville, Christmas at Dollywood. So they're really, I think, going all out at trying to streamline the Christmas movies this year to reflect some of the events that are happening in the summer. So there's, here, do your usual summer stuff, but now with more Christmas. So I think that's really interesting.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. To celebrate the first day of summer yesterday, I watched a Christmas movie. So
you watched you emailed it. It's Pride, Prejudice, and Mistletoe, right?
Yes. I was looking in your book for some ideas, and then I came across that, and that was a lot of fun.
So many Jane Austen themed Christmas movies from it's great.
I don't know how closely to the book they bothered to stick, other than take the name of the characters, but
yeah,
I appreciate the influence, I guess. But it was fun, and I don't think I've seen a Lacey Chabert Christmas movie yet. I mean, that's how little of Hallmark films I've seen.
She is definitely one of the she's one of the queens of that.
I was looking at her Internet Movie Database page. It is all these Christmas movies, multiple ones per year, and I'm like, goodness.
And I have read from a few of these actresses that we see a lot, Alicia Witt, Candace Cameron Bure is another one, Lacey Chabert, that part of the reason they keep going back is because the experience of filming these is so much fun. They've mentioned that it's not only the cast that has a familial community aspect to it. They find that even the caterers, the crew, it's just always a really nice experience. And if you think about how Hollywood and that kind of if that is your job, you can see how stressful that would be. And so I really appreciate how a lot of these actors do it, because it gives them a different experience than that breakneck pace of constant filming and promoting. It's nice that these movies that are wholesome and family focused actually have that sense behind the scenes as well.
Yesterday, as I was watching, I was really just paying attention.
Yeah.
And because often I hear people say, well, we're just going to play it on the background and do stuff. But I mean, just the colors, the background decorations, the music. So, I mean, you take out all the actors, I would still probably just watch it because it's so pretty.
And it's so intentional. I mean, I watched some of them, and you can tell that usually the heroine has a Christmas palette wardrobe. They're wearing either green or cranberry or gold. And I do think that they frame it so that if you paused it at any point in the movie, or you look up from gift wrapping, you're going to have a portrait of a Christmas scene. It's so well thought out. So
and yesterday we I don't know, the temperature had dropped down to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. We had some pretty warm, muggy days, and I had the window open, cool air was blowing through.
That's so nice.
And then I got some Christmas feels, and those things are going to be addicting. So
they are. I mean, some people love the summer, but it was about in York temps, it was about 103 here on the weekend. And then now it's down to about where you are. So we had a bit of a cool drop too.
Yeah.
It's so humid. So yes.
Yes, you gotta find a way to cool down one way or the other. So, it was fun. You know how these things are going to end, but I'm sitting there thinking, oh, is this going to work out in the end? How is it going to work out? And all this, and I needed it, and it was good. Yeah. So, you had mentioned one film that I saw some pictures of it. It was Crashing Through the Snow.
Yeah, I just heard about this one.
Me too. I saw Amy Acker's in it, so I signed me up.
And she actually has been in a few of these. She was in Nutcracker Christmas, which is set during the Nutcracker Ballet. And she was in one called, I believe, Dear Santa.
Yes, I've seen that one.
Fantastic actress. And I find that when she's in these, it kind of just elevates them. She's so authentic and natural. There's an actress with quite a stretch and a range in her background.
Yes. I think we talked about her last time, but I saw the Dear Santa one, which I really liked. Yeah. And she can pull off being sweet and wholesome. Oh yeah. And then she can go demented,
Oh yeah. She is a wide, and she's someone who I think probably just enjoys the break of doing some of these, because her other work can be such a wide range. So yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
Also, and I don't know if we mentioned this before, I find that Hallmark and Lifetime and the channels that produce these films allow actresses who are over the age limit of what would usually be considered a romantic lead in Hollywood to still play romantic leads. If you go to your typical Hollywood movie right now, actresses like Candace Cameron Bure and Amy Acker, even though they're by no means old, these women are in their 40s, they're very attractive and wonderful, they would not be getting these lead roles. And I think that is another wonderful thing, that Hallmark allows actresses who are outside of the metric of what is the ideal Hollywood mid-20s romantic lead to still have these great parts. So yay.
Yeah, I was noticing that on the Pride and Prejudice and Mistletoe, that I can't remember the actor's name, but he had some silver on his temples, and I thought, whoa.
You're allowed to be a real human and be in a Hallmark movie. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I found, and I don't know if we've mentioned this before. I might have forgotten it, but they actually have a Hallmark movie checklist app for your phone.
Yes.
And I downloaded that. So just to try it out. And and it's not just for Christmas movies, but they have all their movies and their mysteries and their dramas, all that stuff. And it's just basically a checklist. Yeah.
They're one of the things that over the pandemic they didn't stop. They really didn't. They've still been filming all of their stuff. So there's definitely not a shortage of Hallmark content out there for any time of year.
Yeah. And, I think we need some good, wholesome joy.
Yes.
These days. So I'm looking forward to it. So do you have any movie in particular you're looking forward to in July?
I do want to see the new Amy Acker. And as I mentioned earlier, before we started recording, this past December, I was so busy promoting my Very Merry Holiday Movie Guide book that ironically, I missed a lot of this year's Christmas offerings. So I don't know if I have a particular one, but I'd like to go back at some point in the summer when I have some downtime and look through and be like, oh, I missed that one and try to catch up just to see. So I also, and I think this is one of your questions for later on, but there's a few that I always catch if they're on, so I always look for them. But the other thing I'm looking forward to is just having Hallmark Christmas on in my house. Because I'll often just leave the channel on W Network here. That's who plays the Hallmark content, and just go about my day, but just know that there's something happy on in the background and not the news.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not the news. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of have to laugh because like you last year, I got this book and I saw all these guides and for me, it's overwhelming because I don't see a lot to see all those movies. And so I'm like, this is great. This will give me a place to start. And then I watched maybe one. I just ran out of time.
Time flies. It's just nice to know that they're there, but it also best intentions to sit and just watch, and it just never happens. But hey, they're not going anywhere, and that's the great thing about them.
Right. Yeah, they'll be there. Now, you had mentioned the Hallmark Now. That's their streaming service.
I believe so. Yeah, and I believe you can pay a subscription, and I might be just I get advertisements for it, so I might be making this up, and I'm definitely not employed by Hallmark, but I do believe that you can pay a monthly subscription to Hallmark Now, and you can access a range of their series and Christmas movies. So if you just want to catch up, and they will put their new content on there, usually a little bit after it premieres on the channels. But if you want to just have your own Christmas in July, then that's a great way to do it. If you don't want to, get Hallmark on cable, or you don't have cable, the Hallmark Now app is great. And you can get it for Canadians. You can get it here as well. And, watch all the Hallmark Christmas movies you want, whenever you want.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I think I might try it out at least just for the month and see how it works. So get my Christmas movie fix. So.
Yeah.
Now what for you is a good Hallmark Christmas movie, and versus what do you think, oh, that's just going to be background noise or background decorations? Like, are you the kind that doesn't matter how good it is or how bad, you're just going to sit and watch it?
I will usually watch them. I mean, I do confess that I'll often have them in the background. I'm usually either writing and or editing a book at all times in my life. So I do have them on when I'm doing email correspondence or that kind of thing. But I think it has a lot to do with the cast. I think that I can usually tell within the first while if there are just some, in any medium, there are some actors and actresses that just don't have a natural chemistry. And so usually that has a lot to do with it if I see that there's an early spark. And I think that we were talking about this earlier in terms of A Christmas Carol and how that is done so many times. So when I see Dickens, per se, like that David Copperfield, it's taking something familiar and adding a different twist that makes it exciting. I would say the same for Hallmark. You can tell when things are just following the connect the dots formula. I like it when there's something that's just a little bit different. This past Christmas, and I'm just going to check my notes because I'm blanking on the title. this is the thing with Hallmark Christmas movies. There are so many that have so many Christmassy titles that you get them mixed up. I was really impressed with one called One Royal Holiday that came out last year because it cast 4 Broadway actors and actresses who were currently not working due to the pandemic. And the fact that they had stage actors worked really well. Not only did they work really well with each other and the instant chemistry you need between these leads, they also are obviously trained singers. So they added that musical element, and it was Aaron Tveit and Laura Osnes who were the leads. And what set it apart was you could tell that stage actors do really well in these. They can learn their lines quickly. I mean, Hallmark produces so many of these. They are able to instantly connect with other people because they have to sell the same kind of love story on stage in a very short amount of time. So that's something that stood out. Often the chemistry, if there's something a little bit different, if it's a different location. Hallmark's been doing movies that are set in Vienna, in Ireland, in Paris, in Italy. If there's a different location, and it's not just a different location as filmed in Vancouver, but that they actually go there and film, that's something that impresses me as well.
Yeah. Are any filmed in Toronto near you? Or?
Oh, there's tons filmed in Toronto.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's like it's New York, but it's actually just Toronto. But I would say Vancouver and British Columbia, that's where the majority of these are filmed.
All right. So we're watching one set in Toronto and we see you jumping in the background.
Yeah. Someday.
It's me. That's cool. You said you've had a lot to catch up on, and are you going to be able to get some time here in July to watch some?
I hope so. One of the things about being a writer and trying to make a living as a writer is you often have to write many, many things for all of those things to add up. So I usually have a few deadlines on the go. But I think that I'll make some time, especially because last Christmas was such a whirlwind. But sometimes I have to tell you, Art, and it's going to sound really cheesy, I just get excited for when they're on TV. It just makes me feel happy inside, whether or not I can pay all the attention to them. Just knowing that they're there as a backdrop even makes me excited.
Well, we've talked about in our Christmas podcast community, we've talked about how back when we were kids, like the Grinch cartoon or the Snoopy cartoon would be on, and you would know, like, the whole neighborhood or the whole town is sitting down to watch that.
Yeah.
And now with the streaming services, you kind of lose that magic a little bit.
You do. I actually just read an article about how nostalgia with new generations is probably gone forever in the way it used to be. Because I was just reading an article about this. When I was a kid in the 90s, Thursday night, everybody watched Friends, or you only had 2 radio stations that everybody listened to. So everybody listened to the same music at once. Now there's no set time for anything. People binge things within an afternoon. You don't have that sense of collective memory. And so nostalgia, to think about the times when everybody kind of had the same experiences, just like you were saying, that's kind of over. And I think that during the pandemic, the gist of this article was that's why so many people are going back and watching Friends and Saved by the Bell and all of these 90s shows that have music and clothes from a simpler time. And the Grinch cartoon, Muppet Christmas Carol, so many of my favorites from a kid. This was a year I actually took a lot of them out because the world had been so dark. You just want to watch Muppet Christmas Carol and feel warm inside because it reminds you of a happier time. And I think that that's something that sadly we're losing a lot of because there are almost too many options for entertainment. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of binging. But I understand but then when I watch a show that's once a week, I want to binge it.
Yeah. But there's a lost art to, and I mean, Dickens knew, I always want to talk about Dickens with you, but Dickens knew the art of this because his work was serialized. Yep. And everything now during the pandemic, when everything was closed, it's wonderful that we had Kindles and we could get books like that and we could get streaming like that. But in non-pandemic time, which is hopefully the rest of time, we've lost some of that excitement. If when I was a kid, if you missed a show on TV, you missed it. Like that was it until summer reruns came. It really was a different world. Now you can watch everything just like that. And there's not really that collective experience of talking about something the next day or, oh my gosh, everybody, you got to get home. It's the season finale of whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And now with binging, now if it's a really popular show, everyone's going to be talking about it because they finished the series and you hadn't started yet. And you're like, well,
and you almost have to avoid social media.
I don't want spoilers. Yeah.
And it is that, again, it's that collective moment in time, but it plays out with huge things like, say, the series finale of Game of Thrones. Twitter that night was just, it seemed like the entire world was watching the same thing, but it's still not. It's just the world has changed so much. So I really do. I think that we've lost that sense of creating nostalgia and memories, and hopefully Christmas, because it's a slightly different experience, can help people still reclaim a bit of that. And Hallmark definitely qualifies for that harken back to simpler times thing.
Definitely. Yeah. I was about to segue to your book because in your book, you're the Very Merry Holiday Movie Guide.
Oh, yeah.
You give ideas for people to have parties and get-togethers. Yeah. So it's not just watch this movie, but make it an experience, with your family or friends. And, I like my middle son and we've been watching a couple of Star Wars and Marvel shows on Disney Plus, and they've been releasing those just once a week.
Oh, that's cool, because it's kind of like the old days.
Yeah. So I've at least one of my sons, the other one, he's 18 and has his own account, so he's up at 3 a.m. watching it probably. But, I said, we'll watch this together. Just humor me on this because I'm enjoying them more because I'm sitting down with my son to watch them than if I just watched it on my laptop some afternoon.
It's an event.
Yeah.
Right. You're setting out time for that specific thing. I love that. And because the Hallmark movies, I did put a lot of activities in there. Unlike what I assume, I confess I'm not really a huge Marvel watcher, but I'm assuming from all of my friends who are, that when you're watching Loki, say, which is the new one, and or Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I'm so bad at Marvel, but
that's all right.
I'm assuming that it's full of Easter eggs and things you want to pay attention to. Yep. Hallmark Christmas movies, for the most part, you could miss a few minutes or talk to your friend and turn back to it, and you're still going to be able to pick up what's going on. So it's a good thing to have, that you can do other things at the same time. Whereas the event of some of those Disney Plus things that people are streaming, part of the fun is zoning in and talking about it after, like, oh, did you notice that this one thing ties into this thing? Because that's an entire world. The other Hallmark is an entire world of Christmas. So it's not, you don't have to pay attention to every little detail if you're busy chatting or baking or what have you.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, you just pretty much described my son after we watch a show. He's like, did you see that? Did you see this? This little thing on this guy's desk in the background? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? But yeah, he's into dissecting all that stuff. So that's pretty funny. All right. So now I'm going to ask you a most difficult question. Do you have like a list of top 5,
This
top
was
10
so
favorites?
hard, but I did do it.
All
And
right.
it's a range of just the ones that that just tend to be my comfort views, or the ones that I just make me really happy. I'm
Mhm.
sure I mentioned this on the last one because I tend to mention it in all of these. My all-time favorite is A Very Merry Mix-Up with Alicia Witt. It's about a woman who accidentally goes to the wrong house thinking it's her fiance's family's place for Christmas. And it's just a really warm, wonderful story. The leads have chemistry. It's great.
Mhm.
Another favorite of mine is Nine Lives of Christmas, which has Brandon Ruth, who played Superman at one point, but
Yeah.
now is doing Hallmark. And it is just lovely. It really is. And I believe I checked, it's actually one of the ones they're showing on Hallmark Channel in July this year. So Nine Lives of Christmas, Very Merry Mix-Up. Window Wonderland is another favorite of mine just because it's charming and I love the leads. And Signed, Sealed, Delivered is one of the Hallmark series that they often have a few movies starring these characters every
Mhm.
year. They're U.S. postal workers who are part of the Dead Letter Office. So they return letters to the owners, and there's usually a heartwarming story involved. And the Christmas movie for that is Signed, Sealed, Delivered for Christmas. And I just love it. I think it's very charming. And finally, and this is actually a Lifetime channel Christmas movie, Love at the Christmas Table. And what I love about it, and this might appeal to you, Art, is that there are little hints of Great Expectations in Love at the
Mm.
Christmas Table. It has a Miss Havisham type character. It has two people who are orphaned and meet together over several Christmases as they're growing up. So it has that Pip and Estella type thing. And I just think it's really well written. So those are
Yeah.
5 that I really like.
Oh, okay, great. I remember you telling me about the Love at the Christmas
Yeah.
Table. The other day I was thinking, what was that movie called? She told me it had a
Oh,
Dickens
there it is
influence.
again.
So there it is. All right. I
And
could have.
it was funny just at Christmas time, I was tweeting about that movie
Mhm.
and saying, guys, I don't know if my friend Allison and I tend to watch it every year. She wrote a book called Keeping Christmas, by the way, which is a devotional look at A Christmas Carol. So she's also a Dickensian Christmas fan. And we always talk about this. And I was tweeting about that. And the writer of the movie actually saw the tweet. I didn't tag him. He found it. And he's like, that was intentional, by the way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, hurrah.
Cool.
I was on the right track. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's always neat when you get those shout outs. Yeah. All right. Well, we've got some movie watching to do here. So
yes,
absolutely. Yeah. I was going to ask too, like, what's your favorite way to watch a movie? Is it with a family all around, or just by yourself, crashed on the couch? Do you have snacks nearby?
I have to tell you, this is an interesting year to ask because I do live on my own in Toronto, coming out of a pandemic where it's been a lot of social isolation. Our rules have been very strict. I've been able to see my parents, who live 2 hours north, because they are in my quote unquote bubble. As a single living person, I can have close contact with another household, but I really haven't seen or hung out with anybody else other than grocery clerks since March of 2020. So I would say right now, watching on my own has been a huge thing. I did see my parents at Christmas, and I have to confess that it wasn't Hallmark movies that we watched. It was going back to some of the nostalgic type classics that kind of were the antidote to the rest of my family not being able to be around. It was a bittersweet. We love the technology, we love Zoom, but it was a bit of a different Christmas. And so Muppets Christmas Carol was one of the happiest nights, just bringing that out, watching it with my parents, remembering how charming it is. So I do like to watch these in normal times with my sister, Leah. She loves Hallmark movies. And so we do watch them together. But this year it's been a lot of just Rachel.
Shouting at the screen. He loves you. Why can't you see it? Yeah. Oh, that's great. We're talking about multiple Christmas Carol versions and
Yes,
things. And I mean, as long as we have the Muppet Christmas Carol to watch, do we really need another
I
adaptation?
I honestly believe, and I know that a lot of Dickensian scholars feel the same way. It's the best adaptation of that story. It's
Mm-hmm.
the most fun.
Yeah.
Michael Caine is an amazing Scrooge.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I also really like Man Who Invented Christmas with Dan Stevens because
Mm-hmm.
it's still Christmas Carol. You've got Christopher Plummer in there, but I really think the Muppets just had something going there. They
Mm-hmm.
really got the heart of that story.
They did. I should have listened to the last time you were on, so I don't repeat any of this. But anyway, but Gerald Dickens, who does one man
Oh
version
yeah,
of
yeah.
Christmas Carol, yeah, he loves the Muppet Christmas Carol too. So
Oh, that's great to have that stamp of approval
yeah,
from.
yeah, you've got Dickens's great grandson saying this is an excellent version. So
It truly is, and it's accessible to everybody. And when I was a kid, and my dad would put on the Alistair Sims, but when I was
mhm.
like little, I was so bored. It just it's not accessible to children in a way that Muppets
Mm,
is. So it's
yeah. Well, see, I don't know. Maybe I was weird because I remember watching that version. I think that was the first version I saw, and I was hooked.
oh really good for
But
you because I
it
was
could be I was watching it with my dad and my grandpa, so it could just be hey, I'm hanging out with my dad and my
yeah
grandpa, and just having a family time, and they were into it. That's their favorite version,
yeah
so
it's
that could
definitely
have
a
just
classic.
yeah. Yeah, yep. So those two are the ones I like to watch every year. Uh, those two versions, and if there's a new one that looks interesting, I'll give it a look. But um, you know, I've got those two, and those are good enough for me. So we'll get that Tale of Two Cities
Yes,
movie
waiting
here
for a
soon.
good
So
waiting for a really good Tale of Two Cities.
that's right. It needs to be good too. So just don't
Yeah.
don't mess it up. All right. Well, Rachel, before we go, anything you want to plug? Any new books coming out here in the
Um,
fall, or?
I have a book coming out in January. It's my next big historical. It's called the Mozart Code, and
Hmm.
it's set in Vienna and Prague in 1947, just before the Iron Curtain falls. And it is basically about how my hero, an MI6 agent, uses chess plays and Mozart symphonies to overthrow a communist plot. And so it's got a lot of classical music, some beautiful settings, a love story. So the Mozart Code is next for me. It's in final edits right now, and it's coming out in January with HarperCollins, January 2022.
All right. Now,
Yeah.
is that part of a series you
It's
said, or?
it's a bit of I had a book come out last August called The London Restoration. That's also set in post-war London, and
Okay.
two of the characters from that book feature in the Mozart Code, but both of them are standalone. They do not have to be read in.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
companion.
Yeah. I saw. I think on Twitter, your name is advertising the pre-order Mozart
Yes,
code or something. Yeah.
everybody buy it! Yay!
Yeah.
It's been such a big part of my life. I was just talking about it so much, I just put it right in the handle. So
There you go.
on my lawn Twitter handle. Yeah.
Well, it's working because I picked up on it and it was like, oh, what's that? I like classical music. So
Yeah.
now, are you a musician at all, or did you have to?
Um, yeah, I'm at this point in my life, I'm mostly an enthusiast, but I actually, from a young age, I was going to, books lured me away, but I was going to study opera. My
Oh,
first year
wow.
at university was off. So I love music and music history. Now I like it mostly as a consumer, and, when theaters are open as a, watcher, as an audience member. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I try to feature music as much as I can in my books. So that's what.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So lots of good books out there to read
Yeah,
here, written by Rachel. So,
that's right.
and then do you have a website?
RachelMcMillan.net. But I would say for anybody who wants to find me, the easiest way is My handle on every social media platform is Rach K. Mick, RACHKMC. That's my handle at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, which are the 3 places that I hang out at the most.
Very good. All right. Well, we'll get that in the show notes, and my rabid fans will hunt you down. And
thank you, rabid fans.
That sounded creepier than I meant it to. So we will find you. All right, Rachel, thank you for stopping by. And
thanks so much, Art. It's always a pleasure. And happy Christmas in July to everybody listening.
Well, I hope you are able to find some good Christmas movies to watch this month and other enjoyable ways to celebrate the season. Because of the length of the interview, I won't have a story today, but I will leave you with a poem. This poem is called December, and it's by John Clare, and he lived from 1793 to 1864. So hopefully this poem will, in this hot month of July, will bring you some pleasant and chilly memories of Christmas in December. Glad Christmas comes, and every hearth makes room to give him welcome now. Even want will dry its tears in mirth, and crown him with a holly bough. Though tramping 'neath a winter sky, or snowy paths in rhymy styles, the housewife sets her spinning by to bid him welcome with her smiles. Each house is swept the day before, and windows stuck with evergreens. The snow is bosomed from the door, and comfort that crowns the cottage scenes. Gilt holly with its thorny pricks, and yew and box with berries small, these deck the unused candlesticks in pictures hanging by the wall. Neighbors resume their annual cheer, wishing with smiles and spirits high, glad Christmas and a happy year to every morning passer-by. Milkmaids their Christmas journeys go, accompanied with favored swain, and children pace the crumpling snow to taste their granny's cake again. The shepherd, now no more afraid, since custom doth the chance bestow, starts up to kiss the giggling maid beneath the branch of mistletoe. That 'neath each cottage beam is seen with pearl-like berries shining gay, the shadow still of what hath been, which fashion yearly fades away. The singing waits, a merry throng, at early morn with simple skill, yet imitate the angel's song and chant their Christmas ditty still. And mid the storm that dies and swells, by fits and hummings softly steals, the music of the village bells ringing around their merry peals. When this is past, a merry crew, bedecked in masks and ribbons gay, the Morris dance, their sports renew, and act their winter evening play. The clown turned king for penny praise storms with the actors strut and swell, and Harlequin, a laugh to raise, wears his hunchback and tinkling bell. And oft, for pence and spicy ale, with winter nosegays pinned before, the wassail singer tells her tale and drawls her Christmas carols o'er. While prentice boy, with ruddy face and rhyme bepowdered dancing locks, from door to door with happy face runs round to claim his Christmas box. The block upon the fire is put to sanction custom's old desires, and many a kindling's bands are cut for the old farmer's Christmas fires, where loud-tongued gladness joins the throng, and winter meets the warmth of May, till feeling soon the heat too strong, he rubs his shins and draws away. While snows the window panes bedim, the fire curls up a sunny charm, where, creaming o'er the pitcher's rim, the flowering ale is set to warm. Mirth, full of joy as summer bees, sits there its pleasures to impart, and children 'tween their parents' knees sing scraps of carols off by heart. And some, to view the winter weathers, climb up the window seat with glee, likening the snow to falling feathers in fancy's infant ecstasy. Laughing with superstitious love, or visions wild that youth supplies, of people pulling geese above and keeping Christmas in the skies, as though the homestead trees were dressed in lieu of snow with dancing leaves, as though the sun-dried martin's nest instead of icicles hung the eaves. The children hail the happy day as if the snow were April's grass, and pleased as 'neath the warmth of May, sport o'er the winter froze to glass. Thou day of happy sound and mirth, that long with childish memory stays, how blessed around the cottage hearth I met thee in my younger days, harping with rapture's dreaming joys on presents which thy coming found, the welcome sight of little toys, the Christmas gift of cousins round. About the glowing hearth at night, the harmless laugh and winter tale go round while parting friends delight to toast each other o'er their ale. The cotter oft with quiet zeal will, musing o'er his Bible lean, while in the dark the lovers steal to kiss and toy behind the screen. Old customs, oh, I love the sound, however simple they may be. Whate'er with time hath sanction found is welcome and is dear to me. Pride grows above simplicity and spurns them from her haughty mind, and soon the poet's song will be the only refuge they can find. So just a reminder now, we have a Cozy Christmas in July contest going on, and there are several ways that you can get involved with that. And the prize is, again, that Christmas cozy for your coffee cup. Decorate your cup with a Christmas sweater all year round. And you can get entered in by liking and sharing the Facebook page or some of my other social media presence. And then another way is by sending me a Christmas memory or a Christmas story tradition, something I can share on the podcast for you. And you can get entered into the contest that way. You can help support the show as well as getting 3 entries into the contest by buying me a cup of coffee at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/Cozy Christmas. And for $3, you can you can help support the show as well as be entered 3 times into the contest to win that prize. Now go make yourself a giant tub of Christmas popcorn, settle in with a stack of Hallmark movies, and enjoy your Christmas in July. So until next time, be kind to each other and do good. And remember that there is nothing in the world more irresistibly contagious than laughter and good humor. Have a very Merry Christmas.